Hello and welcome to Beach View, our podcast about things and/or stuff.
Hey, today we're going to switch it up a little. Instead of talking about current viewings, we're going to talk about past viewings.
Yes, it's like current viewings, but in the past.
Yeah, so like stuff we like watched or read or played, whatever. Just not currently.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yes. So, I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, so my past viewing is Yu-Gi-Oh! Are you familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh?
It sounds vaguely familiar.
Well, it's a rather popular Japanese media franchise with the long-running trading card game and multiple animes.
Oh, okay.
And the creator of it actually died last month, which is part of why I want to talk about it.
Oh, R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. Kazuki Takahashi. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Means King of Games in Japanese. Do you know what a trading card game is, or collectible card game as it's sometimes called?
Yeah, I mean, I think we used to have like Pokemon cards and stuff like that,
Yeah.
so I'm assuming it's like the same thing.
Yeah, like Pokemon, or you might have heard of Magic the Gathering.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of the top 3 TCGs or CCGs in the US and has been going here since 2002.
Wait, what's the CCG?
Collectible card game.
Oh, okay. Got you.
I don't know the specific etymology of those terms, I just know Magic the Gathering usually calls itself a collectible card game, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Usually calls itself a trading card game.
I got you.
That's just different terms for the same thing.
Yeah.
It was also popular in the US as a cartoon, which was adapted from an anime, which was adapted from a manga.
So, did you, in the past, watch them all and read them all?
Well, we'll get there.
Okay.
It's a bit of a story tracking backwards. And by adapted from an anime, I mean it was basically like they just took all the animation and changed a bit when they dubbed it for English.
Okay.
It's not substantially different. And it's about a teen named Yugi who gets an ancient Egyptian puzzle, and when he solves the puzzle, it causes him to be possessed by an ancient Egyptian pharaoh.
Ooh, that's cool.
And they kind of switch back and forth between it being, the original him and the pharaoh. And the pharaoh looks just like him, except taller.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's about him and his friends playing the card game.
So then, okay, so the card game, is it like the collectible cards? Is it the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the pharaoh usually takes over when they're playing the card game, and basically everything in the show is like done through the card game, like they go on an adventure to do stuff and they play the card game.
That's cool.
So, for most Americans, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a cartoon and card game from the 2000s. But that's not my past viewing today. It's instead the original manga from 1996.
Oh, snap.
Which started out quite different from the version that most Americans are familiar with.
So when you say past viewing today, you're talking about way in the past.
Well, I didn't read it in 1996, but, yeah. I was obviously familiar with the, card game and cartoon, and then, it was sort of a thing, as people were coming on the internet, figuring out the original manga, finding out about that, and being like, wow, this is a lot different from the cartoon I remember.
That's cool.
And at some point I read it, and it still has the same premise. A teenage boy named Yugi gets a magical Egyptian puzzle, and he solves it, and he gets possessed by a pharaoh. The difference is, they don't play card games. They still play games, Yu-Gi-Oh! Means King of Games.
Okay.
But it's more Saw-like. Like the movie Saw, I want to play a game sort of deal.
Oh, wait, I'm not familiar. I mean,
Really?
I've heard of it. I've heard of it, but I never watched it.
Okay, well, I mean, I've never seen it either, but there's this little puppet guy who abducts people and forces them to play
that creepy little guy?
games,
Yes,
quote,
I know who
unquote.
you're talking about. Okay,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, I didn't know they had to play games.
Yeah, well, games is, I don't know any of the specific things, but they have to, like, do something in order to rescue themselves.
Gotcha.
Like,
Okay.
one of them has a key embedded in his arm or something, and he has to cut off his arm if he wants to get the key to unlock a door to get freedom.
Ooh, okay. That's creepy.
And it's meant to be, like, punishment for them being evil or something. I don't know. I've never seen it. I just know it's people who have to play games, quote unquote, where they have to do, like, horror things to escape.
Got you. Okay, that makes sense.
This is older than Saw, but, like, they're still, it's similar in concept. It's kind of horror tinged, like when the, Pharaoh takes over. He takes over whenever there's a bad guy,
Oh.
like when Yugi and his friends encounter a bad guy, and they play what's called a shadow game. And this is usually themed to the person in some way. Like a musician was being a bully, and they play a game where whoever makes a sound first loses.
Oh.
And the loser, which is always the bad guy, is issued some sort of ironic punishment. They're also given, like, a potential reward for playing, which, like, entices them to play.
Okay, so it's kind of got, like, a darker theme than
than a children's card game, yes.
Anime. Yeah, okay, got you.
Yeah, so they go around, like, doing normal teenager stuff, but when they run into some sort of villain, the Pharaoh springs into action and challenges them to a magical game, and then issues out some sort of ironic punishment.
Interesting, okay.
And it's quite interesting, especially given that, like, the incongruity of what you're used to from, like, the cartoon and what is, like, the original.
Yeah.
And you might be wondering, okay, well, if the cartoon ends up being about a card game, how do we get from this more, like, horror-tinged story about ironic punishment to a story about card games?
Yeah.
So, at one point in the manga, a card game does get introduced.
Okay.
It is called King of Games, after all. You know, they play different games. And it was loosely based on Magic the Gathering, which was really popular at the time.
Okay.
I don't know how familiar you are with Magic the Gathering, but it's, like, I think the first real collectible or trading card game.
Okay. Even before, like, Pokemon and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Magic the Gathering came out in 1993, and I don't think the Pokemon trading card game comes out till, like, 98.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I thought, like, Magic the Gathering, I guess, was later. I don't know. I don't know that much about it, obviously.
But yeah, so I think it was getting big in Japan around this time, which is probably, like, where the inspiration comes from.
Okay.
And this, like, card game part became so popular with fans of the original manga that the creator, Kazuki Takahashi, decided to just, like, base the whole manga around it.
That's kind of cool. So the creator of the manga also created the anime?
I don't know the specific line, like, there.
Okay.
I think it's just adapted,
Okay.
and, like, a different person did the anime, or different, like, studio or whatever.
Okay.
But, like, the storyline's the same.
Okay, gotcha. That's cool.
Because it eventually, like, the card game takes over and becomes, like, the whole plot of the manga.
Okay.
Which eventually became so popular, it spawned its own card game based on the thing from the manga, and its own popular anime, which then goes on to become this kind of a big thing, worldwide.
It sounds like it's a big thing. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how big it is in, like, absolute terms, but again, it is one of the top 3 most popular trading card games, in the US at least.
Like, still now?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of neat.
Definitely.
I just, it's a interesting sort of chain of events there, and especially, like I said earlier, like, when you're familiar with the card game and the show about the card game, that's kind of, like, you could dismissively call it, like, basically just one of those shows that serves as an advertisement for a product rather than, like, a show in its own right.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, finding out, like, oh, this was originally this very different thing, is neat.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, sounds like its popularity spanned decades, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's still kind of popular today. They, this year, released a digital version of the card game,
Oh,
and that had, like, a really huge initial launch.
that's so cool.
Yeah. And, again, the creator died earlier this year, so,
Aw,
yeah.
very sad. So how did the creator die? Like, I mean,
I believe a snorkeling accident?
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's kind of weird, but,
Yeah.
I mean, water's dangerous.
I was just talking about going snorkeling later this year, so.
Well, I think he was
Creepy.
by himself, like, on vacation.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. But yeah, there was this, like, huge outpouring of support for, like, what the show and the card game meant to people, and the original manga that it's all based off of.
Absolutely.
Which I think, I mean, it's been years and years since I've read it, but I think it was, like, even absent the stuff that came later, I think the original manga is still pretty good.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting, the premise of, like, this boy gets possessed by ancient Egyptian pharaoh who doles out ironic punishment.
I mean, it's super creative, I think, and
Yeah.
I didn't see, like, when you're describing, like, the card game, I didn't see the dark side of it coming, like that it was actually, like, more creepy than
Yeah.
like a fun innocent card game.
Which was like a lot of people's reaction, like, upon learning about the original.
Yeah. It's like an onion peeling back the layers. Like,
Mhm.
oh, this is a little more intense than you originally thought.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you like to reread things?
It depends.
I was gonna say, like, do you have any plans to, like, revisit that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it because of, passing of the creator recently, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah. That's funny. I'll go back and reread things every now and then, but that's pretty cool. I mean, especially from the story being so old and it's still super popular. I always love stuff like that because it's kind of like, universal in that people around the world, really like it. And there's so many different things that came from that original creation. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So, do you have a past viewing to share with us?
I do, yes. So, mine is a movie. I figured out, usually when I do current viewings, it's either like a TV show or like a book. So,
Yeah.
I think every once in a while I do a movie, but I was like, let me think back to a movie. And actually mentioned this movie the other day. It's Age of Adeline, or Adeline. I'm not really sure how you say it. Yeah. So, have you heard of it?
I have not.
Okay, so this movie, I believe it premiered in 2015. So it's not like super, super old, but, it's a while back. And the reason I thought of it is because I saw that it was now streaming on Netflix. And so I was like, oh, that's a good movie. I really like it. So I want to rewatch it. So I haven't done that yet, but so basically I'm going to give you like a plot summary, I guess.
Mhm.
So the movie starts off, you see Adeline is buying fake IDs at an apartment, and then she like goes home and she's feeding her dog. So you're like, this is odd. And by the way, Adeline is played by Blake Lively. And so you're just kind of like, that's interesting. So she goes to work. She opens a box of film reels and it highlights historical events and times. And anyway, they start like explaining, like there's a narrator that starts explaining Adeline's life so far. And usually I don't like movies that have like a narrator, but I thought this one was an interesting one. So the voiceover just starts explaining. So Adeline was born on New Year's Day. She was the first baby born in San Francisco on New Year's Day in 1908. She, eventually grew up, got married, and had a daughter. And then she became a widow as her husband died in a tragic accident during the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge in the 30s. So several months later, she's on her way to visit her parents, and she crashes her car. She swerves off the road. I think there's a snowstorm. It's freezing. So she swerves off the road and she ends up in a lake, and she basically freezes to death. Okay. But right as she's dying, or she died, a lightning strike suddenly revives her. So then she's alive again. So she, from that moment on, has stayed physically 29 years old. She never ages. And so they're going through her life, and they show she has kept the same dog, the same kind of dog. Every time her dog dies, she gets a new one. It's the same one, so that she appears to be, kind of the same person, and everything is normal. So they show that, her daughter grows old, but she doesn't, because of this freak accident that happened to her. So her daughter eventually starts looking older than she does, and her daughter's really the only one who knows about this. So one night, some FBI agents attempt to force her into an airplane to study her, to figure out, why physically she hasn't aged. Because somehow, I guess, they find out about it. I'm not really sure. I don't really remember that part. Anyway, so ever since then, she escapes. Ever since then, she has decided she's just going to keep changing her identity, and that way she doesn't get discovered, because she doesn't want to live a life of being studied and poked and prodded by, FBI or whomever is trying to study her. Okay. So then we fast forward to what is present day. It's New Year's Eve, 2014. And she attends a party, and we see that she has a friend who is blind. And she's kept the same friend, throughout the number of years, but her friend doesn't know that she doesn't age because she's blind. So her friend is, an old lady now, but she still appears young. So she goes to this party, and it seems like New Year's Eve is a big thing for her. They go to this party every year. And currently she's calling herself Jennifer, which is a beautiful name, if I do say so myself. So she meets this guy Ellis, and he asks to see her again, and she refuses because she doesn't want to get close to anybody because they can't know her secret, right? So she works at this library, and the next day, Ellis shows up, and he brings her these books that have that are named after flowers. He brought her flowers, but they're actually books, which I thought was really cute. And anyway, Ellis wants Adeline to go on a date with him, and she's like, no, I can't. Well, he's a philanthropist, and he's like, well, I was gonna donate this money, but I guess I can unless you go on a date with me. Which is a little creepy in itself, but,
yeah,
it's presented creepy in a way that it's, kind of cute, whatever.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. No, I was kind of I don't know about that. But, anyway, so they show a flashback, Adeline, was to be engaged at one point. They show, a man, with a ring, and she sees that he has a ring, and she's in a cab, and she just tells the cab driver to keep driving. So basically we understand that Adeline doesn't let herself get close to anybody. She was in love at one point, but decided to keep running. So anyway, Ellis, they end up I guess they start dating a little bit. Ellis invites Adeline to a party at his parents' house to celebrate their 40th anniversary. Okay, and here's where the plot twist comes in. They arrive at the party, they drive there. It's out of town somewhere. They drive there, and Ellis goes to introduce her to his father, William. Well, William instantly recognizes her and calls her Adeline. And she, recognizes him too, but she lies. And she's like, oh, no. Adeline was my mother. That's not me. I resemble her. Anyway, then they flash back, and they show that William, the dad, is actually the man who was going to propose to her that she ran from. Okay. So that's the plot twist. Anyway, so William is so shaken. He's like, I know that this Like, it looks exactly like Adeline. Everything is Adeline. Like, this has got to be her, but how, you know? Because he's like an older man now. She's still young. Anyway, the next day, they're like outside. I don't know. I don't even know what they're doing outside. I don't remember. Anyway, he notices a scar on her left hand, and he remembers that she had cut her left hand when they were hiking one day, and he had to stitch it up himself. So he knows that scar, and he knows that scar's on her hand. So he's like, oh man, this is her, you know, confronts her. She gets upset, and she admits, like, yes, I used to be normal, but since that freak accident, like, she has never aged. Well, she was going to run because she's been found out. And he says, like, please don't leave. Like, Ellis, obviously, you know, his son obviously loves her. Just stay. And she runs to the house. Ellis is in the shower, and she writes him a note saying, like, you know, I don't know, she has to leave. So Ellis finds the letter, okay, when he gets out of the shower. He confronts his father, and the father, William, is like refuses to explain. Because, I mean, how do you explain that? There's no explanation, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so while she's driving home, she's like, you know, freaked out, driving home. Guess what happens?
She gets in a car accident?
Yes. But so she's trying to call her daughter, and she's going to tell her daughter, like, she's tired of running. She's not going to run anymore. Like, we know that she has feelings for Ellis in this weird plot twist that she used to date his father. Anyway, so she decides she's going to turn the car around. She's going to stop running. Well, as she's turning the car around, a tow truck, like, plows into her, causing her, again, to crash into the water. Okay. Again, it's freezing cold. She basically dies in the water again. Ambulance arrives, and they do the defibrillator on her. She is revived, and she wakes up in the hospital, and Ellis is at her side, obviously. And of course they, you know, profess their love to each other. And then Adeline tells him she's really 107 years old, and she's been running away. She's always been afraid that her identity would be discovered. But she comes clean because she's tired of running. I mean, obviously, she's 107. She's tired. So, anyway, they fast forward a little bit. Okay, so they show a year later, Ellis and Adeline, of course, it's New Year's Eve, and they're going to a New Year's Eve party. And so, you know, supposedly they've been together this whole time and love each other. So as she's getting ready to leave, and she looks in the mirror, and she notices she has her first gray hair, like, in her hair. So that shows that she's starting to age. And then Ellis is like, hey, are you okay? And she's like, yes, I'm perfect. So that's the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So basically, like, the second freaky accident, like, changed her back to normal. So now she's going to start aging from 29. So that's the synopsis. It's kind of like this, like, fantasy, I guess, science fiction-y, you know.
Yeah.
So, does it sound compelling to you?
I don't know. Not really my thing, but it's certainly an interesting premise.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the movie had mixed reviews, and I think the thing that really saved it is the casting. So the two main players were Adeline, who again was Blake Lively, and the dad, William, was played by Harrison Ford. So I think, like, that, according to, like, critiques, the performances from Blake Lively and Harrison Ford, like, really kind of saved the movie. They said it was, like, really good performances on both parts, which I agree. And I like both of those actors a lot. So I think that's what made me like the movie better. But it is based off of a book, and I still haven't read the book. I said a long time ago, I'm going to get that. Like, I think it'd be a good read, you know, and I never did get it. So I got to add that back to my list. But I thought it was cool. I mean, I like those kinds of, like, interesting stories. And it's just kind of a different kind of movie. It's not like the normal, I guess, like, love story or It really wasn't super centered around a love story. It was more like the fact that this lady doesn't age.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting, you know. It's a little bit different from the normal like vampire like non-aging stories. So I thought it was kind of cool. So just it kind of sparked my memory when I saw that it was streaming on Netflix, and definitely planning on watching it soon and, you know, adding the book to my library. So there you go.
Yeah. I will say it does sound a bit weird that she ends up dating this guy and then his son.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of like kind of funny that it's like that's not weird at all. Like like you go to meet the family and you're like, "Oh, I dated you 40 years ago." I guess cuz they have the parents are celebrating their 40. Yeah, and blast from the past, and like, you know, the girl still looks like she's 29. So, yeah, I don't know how you like really have like a peaceful family dinner when, you know, everybody's kind of like, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, a bit awkward, perhaps.
Yeah, especially because like their original, like, I guess, love story was cut short because she ran and he never knew like what happened to her. So there's a bit of a mystery there for him.
Yeah.
But he, you know, he was selfless and of course, you know, wanted her to stick around for his son and to not do the same thing that she did to him, I guess. So, you know, a little bit of a plot twist there.
Yeah, I guess that's the situations you find yourself in when you're immortal, though.
Right, exactly, yes. But I did think it was funny that, like, she just kept getting the same dog. Like, one dog would die and she was devastated and she would, like, get the same exact dog. And she had, like, a little photo album of pictures of the dog. So I was like, that's interesting.
Some people do that in real life. They get the same dog breed that's their favorite.
That's true. Yeah. I guess that's normal. And I think that was just kind of showing that she was lonely and that she had like her dog and her daughter and her blind friend were her only companions. And so it just showed like even though she was on the run, she still kept some, you know, close people and an animal, you know, close to her because she was lonely without, you know, being able to have other friends and loved ones.
Okay, the blind thing. The blind person will still notice you're not aging.
Well, she did, like, that did come up, like, at the New Year's party. The friend was, like, feeling her face and, like, made a comment about her, like, never aging.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, don't be silly. I don't know, something, like, kind of a little dismissive.
Well, you would know. You like... You could feel their face and you would hear it in their voice. Your voice changes as you get older.
Apparently not her. So, I don't know. I thought that was funny.
And, like, if you're going around other people, they would notice.
Well, people, like, made comments about it, too. So, I mean, like, it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, keeping your friend in the dark kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I was curious because she was 107, so I'm like, well, how old is this friend? Like, when did she meet this friend? Like, I need more details.
Yeah, just nitpicking a movie I've never seen because it's funny.
Well, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, those questions do arise. But again, I'll have to read the book, and maybe some stuff is explained more in the book. You know how the movie just kind of usually glosses over stuff. So
yeah.
But I thought it was a good performance by the cast, and you know, so I'm definitely gonna watch it again.
Yeah, seems interesting.
Yeah. Definitely. I think we had 2 really interesting past viewings.
Yeah. So, anything else to add, or I guess you can take us out?
All right, I'll take us out. Well, thank you for listening to Beach View, our podcast about all sorts of things and stuff. And join us next time. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.